When your dog puts their paw on you, do you actually know what they're trying to say? Yes, it feels sweet, maybe even adorable. A soft paw on your arm while you're sitting down, a gentle touch on your leg while you're distracted. Sometimes they just leave it there, like they want to stay connected to you. But behind that simple action, there's something deeper that most people miss. It's one of the most emotionally vulnerable things your dog can do. And if you ignore it, which most owners do without realizing, you might be missing moments where your dog is trying to comfort you, trust you, or quietly ask for emotional reassurance themselves. Let's start with what that paw really means. 1. Your dog usually isn't asking for something. Have you ever noticed your dog putting their paw on you even when they already ate, already went outside, and clearly don't need anything? Most people assume pawing means, pet me, give me attention, take me for a walk. And sometimes that's true, but here's what's actually happening. Researchers who study canine behavior call this contact-seeking behavior. Your dog learns very early in life that physical touch changes emotional states, both yours and theirs. That soft paw isn't always a request. Sometimes it's emotional communication. Your dog notices when you're quiet, longer than usual, when your breathing changes, when your energy feels different, and instead of speaking, they touch you. Think about that for a second. Humans use words to reconnect emotionally. Dogs use contact. And here's where most people get it wrong. When owners constantly push the paw away because they think the dog is being annoying or demanding, the dog often becomes more persistent, not because they're stubborn, but because the connection didn't happen. The paw was the message. And by the way, if your dog ever places their paw on you and just freezes there without moving, don't brush it off. We'll come back to why dogs do that later. And what it actually reveals is far deeper than most owners realize. 2. Science says your dog can feel emotional tension. Now here's where it gets even more powerful. A 2012 study from Goldsmiths University in London observed how dogs reacted when humans cried. Researchers placed dogs in rooms with both strangers and owners. One person would speak normally, the other would pretend to cry. And something remarkable happened. The dogs consistently approached the crying person, even when it was someone they had never met before. Not aggressively, not nervously, gently. They nudged them, licked them, leaned against them, and in many cases, placed a paw on them. Here's what most people don't realize. That means your dog isn't only reacting to commands or routines, they're reacting to emotional states. Animal cognition researchers believe dogs evolved an unusual sensitivity to human emotion because surviving alongside humans required emotional cooperation. But emotionally, here's what that really means. Your dog does not experience you as furniture in their environment. They experience you as an emotional being. Your sadness affects them. Your stress changes them. Your calm regulates them. So when your dog puts their paw on you while you're upset, they may not fully understand your problem, but they understand something is wrong, and they're trying to close the emotional distance between you. Think about how profound that is. An animal that doesn't speak your language still feels the need to comfort you through touch. 3. Your dog is also claiming you emotionally. Now, let's talk about something most owners never think about. Scent. Dogs experience the world through scent far more than sight. In fact, behavioral scientists estimate a dog's sense of smell is tens of thousands of times more sensitive than yours, which means when your dog touches you repeatedly, they're gathering emotional information constantly. Your scent changes when you're stressed. It changes when you're sick. It changes when you're anxious. And here's what's actually happening. When your dog places their paw on you, especially repeatedly, they're not only touching you emotionally, they're also reinforcing familiarity through scent exchange and contact memory. Researchers who study canine social bonding have observed that dogs use repeated physical contact to strengthen social belonging within their group. In simple terms, your dog is reminding themselves, you are mine, you are safe, you belong with me. Think about that for a second. To your dog, family isn't defined by language. It's defined by scent, safety, and repeated emotional contact. That's why many dogs paw the same person over and over in a household. Not because they dislike everyone else, but because one person becomes their emotional anchor. And here's where it gets even more meaningful. The more emotionally safe your dog feels with you, the more relaxed and gentle the paw usually becomes. Not demanding, not frantic, just resting there quietly. Almost like they simply want to stay connected. And hey, if this makes sense to you, hit like and subscribe. It helps us reach more dog lovers who actually want to understand what their dog is really saying. 4. This behavior starts before your dog even opens their eyes. What makes this even more meaningful is where this behavior comes from. Long before dogs lived in homes, before couches, before names, puppies survived entirely through physical contact. Newborn puppies cannot regulate their own body temperature well. They cannot survive alone. And they instinctively push and knead against their mother using their paws. That movement is ancient. It's tied to warmth, safety, milk, protection. Here's what's actually happening. Domestic dogs never fully lost that emotional wiring. They simply redirected it toward humans. Behavioral researchers believe many adult dog touch behaviors are evolved versions of early life survival bonding. So when your dog presses their paw onto you during quiet moments, part of their nervous system is reaching back to the oldest feeling they know. I'm safe when I'm touching someone I trust. Think about how deep that runs. This isn't a trick. It's not manipulation. It's thousands of years of emotional survival encoded into their body. And somehow, your dog chose you as the place where that instinct settles. 5. Your dog does not do this with everyone. Now here's the part that changes how most people see this forever. Dogs don't place their paws on everyone the same way. Have you noticed that? Maybe your dog greets guests happily. Maybe they accept petting from strangers. Maybe they play with other family members. But when they're tired, stressed, quiet, emotionally vulnerable, they come to you and they place their paw on you differently. Softer, longer, more relaxed. Here's what's actually happening. Studies on domestic dogs reveal that dogs create emotional hierarchies based on trust, predictability, and safety. Your dog is constantly learning. Who comforts me? Who understands my signals? Who feels emotionally safe? And over time, one person usually becomes the nervous system's safe point. That's why some dogs only paw one person when scared, or only rest their paw on one specific family member at night. Think about that for a second. Your dog is not randomly choosing contact. They're choosing the person whose presence changes their emotional state the most. Not because you dominate them, not because you feed them more, but because your presence became emotionally regulating to them. That's an incredibly intimate thing for an animal to decide. 6. The paw is sometimes about protecting you. Now remember earlier when I mentioned dogs that place their paw on you and then freeze there quietly. This is what I was talking about. Researchers studying mammalian touch discovered special nerve fibers called C-tactile afferents. These nerves respond specifically to slow, gentle, sustained touch, not pressure, not pain, emotional touch. And both humans and dogs appear to respond to this kind of contact neurologically. Here's what most people never realize. That quiet paw on your arm may actually be your dog trying to calm your nervous system, not metaphorically, physically. Some dogs do this during arguments. Some experience panic attacks. Sometimes you're crying silently and haven't said a word. And here's where it becomes emotional. A 2021 study published in Scientific Reports found that physical contact between dogs and owners increases oxytocin levels in dogs significantly, far more than in wolves raised by humans. Which means dogs didn't just learn to tolerate human touch, they evolved to emotionally need it. Think about how extraordinary that is. Across thousands of years, dogs developed brains and bodies that chemically reward emotional closeness with humans. Your dog feels safer touching you, and sometimes they may believe you feel safer touching them too. That's why many dogs place their paw on people who are grieving, sick, anxious, or emotionally overwhelmed. Not because they understand every detail, but because somewhere inside them, they recognize emotional pain and instinctively move toward it. That's not obedience, that's emotional devotion. 7. When the paw suddenly stops, don't ignore it. And here's the warning most owners never hear. If your dog suddenly stops placing their paw on you after doing it for years, pay attention. Especially if they also become more withdrawn, less physically affectionate, more hesitant around contact. Here's what's actually happening. Sudden behavioral changes in dogs often reflect emotional stress, physical discomfort, aging, or anxiety. Sometimes the dog is hurting physically, sometimes their emotional state changed. Sometimes repeated rejection taught them to stop trying. And this is where most owners unintentionally miss something important. Dogs don't communicate with speeches. They communicate with patterns. So when a pattern of emotional touch disappears suddenly, your dog may be trying to tell you something quietly. Don't ignore it. Slow down. Reconnect. Observe, because sometimes the absence of a paw says just as much as the touch itself. So when your dog puts their paw on you, do you actually know what they're trying to say? They're not always asking for food, or attention, or a walk. Sometimes they're grounding themselves emotionally. Sometimes they're comforting you. Sometimes they're reinforcing the bond that makes you feel like family to them. That's not a random habit. That's trust, attachment, safety, emotional vulnerability, and that soft paw resting on your arm. It was never small to them, and it shouldn't be small to you either. Your dog has never once kept score. So tonight, if a paw lands on you, heavy or light, brief or lingering, you don't have to do anything special. Just don't move it. Let it stay. That's enough. For both of you, that has always been enough. If your dog has ever put a paw on you at a moment that felt like they knew something, tell me that story in the comments. And if this video made you see your dog differently, subscribe. There's more your dog has been trying to tell you.